Harry and Meghan have quietly slipped down the royal pecking order, and people only noticed once the palace website changed, placing them far lower than before, but that was only the surface signal of something much bigger unfolding behind palace walls. What has now emerged is not rumor and not speculation, but a calculated internal shift inside the British monarchy. Insiders say it had been quietly building for months before finally breaking through. Prince William has stepped in to take operational control from a visibly weakened King Charles. That single move sent shockwaves straight into Prince Harry's world, because once William took charge, the countdown began, and according to sources familiar with how these decisions are made, the formal mechanism to remove Harry and Meghan's titles has already been activated. But the real question is not how it is happening. The real question is why. This did not begin with public pressure or media outrage. It began with something far more personal and far more dangerous: a private handwritten diary belonging to Queen Elizabeth II, not meant for public eyes, not prepared for history, a working record written in moments when the crown could not speak aloud. Insiders claim that within those pages the Queen flagged a matter she believed could seriously damage the monarchy if it ever surfaced, and that concern was directly connected to Meghan Markle. At the same time, a name long absent from the royal narrative suddenly reappeared: Trevor Engelson, Meghan's former husband. Sources say he was quietly advised to leave the United Kingdom within days, raising intense speculation across diplomatic and media circles. Was he being protected? Was he being removed? Or was his connection the missing link the palace could no longer ignore? As expected, the palace made no official comment, but action spoke louder than words. Harry did not return to California after his sudden trip to Britain. Instead, he stayed near Heathrow, keeping out of sight, avoiding cameras, avoiding friends, and even avoiding his wife, a prince suddenly untethered. Then a package arrived in California, small, unmarked, and heavily sealed. Inside were photographs and a storage device. The images showed Meghan outside a private medical facility in Los Angeles alongside Trevor, dated just weeks before her engagement to Harry. The final image showed Trevor holding a large clinic envelope, the kind typically used for medical records. Handwritten words on the back read, "Meghan has been found out. Ask her where the baby really went." Shaken, Harry accessed the audio file on the device and heard Prince William's private voice, calm, firm, and final. The voice stated that titles are not symbolic, and that the matter would end before the third anniversary of the Queen's passing. Moments later, a call came. A woman's voice carried unmistakable authority, informing Harry that the Privy Council vote was imminent and that he had less than 2 days to respond. Harry left immediately without informing Meghan, flying to London, while the process moved forward behind him. When he arrived, William did not dramatize the meeting. There were no speeches, only documents, flight records, clinic logs, sworn statements, and one unavoidable truth. William did not build the case. He inherited it from their grandmother, who had waited hoping Harry would confront it himself. The palace announcement followed, carefully worded, confirming a constitutional review, naming no one, accusing no one. But the reaction was instant. Media exploded, allies went silent, narratives began to collapse. Meghan went public, framing the move as persecution, but avoided specifics, and the public noticed soon after a single old photograph surfaced with no caption and no explanation. Harry watched from a quiet room near Heathrow when his father messaged, only one line: handle this quietly, protect the children. The Privy Council met, and by evening the decision was final. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles would be removed following the memorial anniversary. No spectacle, no reversal. William later stood alone, reflecting not on power, but on duty. Across the ocean, Meghan faced the reality that control of the story had slipped away, and Harry finally understood that when the crown stops shielding you, there is no escape, only consequence. And this time, it was permanent. Inside the palace, the mood shifted from restraint to resolve. Advisors who once urged patience were now silent, because the direction had already been set. William was no longer weighing options. He was executing duty, and every move that followed carried the imprint of finality. Behind closed doors, senior aides began preparing contingencies, not for public reaction, but for escalation: legal challenges, media counteroffensives, and attempts to recast the narrative overseas. Nothing was underestimated, nothing was dismissed. What made this moment different was not speed, but certainty. The Queen's words had removed doubt. There was no longer a question of whether action should be taken, only how cleanly it could be done. Harry was summoned again, not for negotiation, but for clarity. He was offered one choice: cooperate quietly or watch the process unfold without him. There would be no compromise and no special accommodation. For the first time, Harry understood that his name no longer altered outcomes. His presence was symbolic. At best, his absence irrelevant. At worst, the institution had moved on. Across the Atlantic, Meghan's inner circle scrambled. Messaging drafts changed by the hour, narratives tested, and discarded allies quietly distanced themselves as uncertainty spread. Private calls went unanswered. Former supporters hesitated, waiting to see which direction the wind would blow, because when the palace moves with silence, it signals permanence. A second leak followed this one, confirming that no retaliation interviews or public statements would delay the process. The timeline was locked and immune to outside pressure. Behind-the-scenes financial arrangements were reviewed, patronages reassigned, digital references archived, and internal directories updated, as if preparing for a future where Sussex no longer existed within official structure. Harry received one final briefing outlining what would remain and what would not. Styles, references, privileges, and access points, all reduced to their most basic form. There was no anger in the room, only procedure, and that absence of emotion unsettled him more than confrontation ever could. Meanwhile, public curiosity intensified, not because of spectacle, but because of restraint. The lack of denial spoke louder than any accusation. Commentators noticed language shifts. Former allies stopped using titles, broadcasters adjusted phrasing, and international partners followed suit, quietly aligning with the inevitable. Meghan prepared to speak again, but advisors warned that each appearance now carried risk, not leverage. Silence had become the palace's strongest shield. In Britain, the memorial anniversary approached, and with it the final procedural step. Nothing dramatic, nothing ceremonial, just documentation, signatures, and closure. William remained out of view, refusing commentary, understanding that authority is strongest when it does not explain itself. Harry watched events unfold, knowing that no flight, no statement, no appeal would reverse what had already been set in motion years earlier. This was not punishment. It was separation. The line between personal choice and institutional consequence finally drawn. And when the date passed, there would be no announcement to follow, because endings like this do not echo, they simply settle. This is royal empire, and the crown has made its decision.